What's a good word, everyone? It's your boy DKB here. I just want to say thanks for all the support. The channel's been steadily growing, and the number you see below, you can drop a text, shoot a voicemail, any ideas, topics, collabs, etc. you guys want to see. I'll include them in future videos and live streams, and I'll catch you again. Be easy. What's the good word, Jets fans? It's your boy DKB here, and I wanted to talk about Sauce Gardner, right? Now, on the heels of Garrett Wilson getting his huge contract, it seems like the timeline for these two guys both signing their deals was probably going to be pretty close together, especially considering I think everybody assumes we're going to sign both of these players before training camp kicks off, and you're talking about us being about a couple weeks away from that occurring, right? So still definitely some time there, but according to some of the rumors and some of the sources I'm seeing, it feels like we're at most a couple days away from also hearing Sauce Gardner break news on his contract. And hell, by the time you guys see this video, maybe that news even breaks in and of itself. But this would be something that you want to see occur, right? Not only is it rare to have the kind of draft class that Joe Douglas has actually been able to pull off, but both of these guys are definitely well deserving. You can make the argument maybe Garrett Wilson is slightly overpaid in his contract, even considering inflation and all that, but this is a guy that you want to have on your side. Is one of the few times you found a way to get it right on the offensive side of the ball. Defense, completely different scenario, but why would you not want to also lock up arguably the best cornerback in at worst, top 3, top 5 in the NFL, and even on his worst day, probably still achieves that status? Why would you not want to lock him up for the foreseeable future as well? And I'm curious if he also ends up essentially going through being locked up going into the 2030 season like we saw with Garrett Wilson. Now, one of the interesting pieces and some of the stuff to pull away from Garrett Wilson's contract that impacts Sauce Gardner is with Joe Douglas, we know he had a line in the sand right now based on whatever he talked to his, chief financial officers about and his analysts and all this kind of stuff to come up with a number. He didn't really stray from that. And so we saw guys like JFM walk away from this team, and other guys that, we end up later hearing about never got an offer, or contract talks never even really materialized, and different things of this nature, right? With Darren Mougey, with Garrett Wilson's deal, you get an understanding that he doesn't have that same mentality, right? He was willing to overpay a little bit to secure his top guy and someone who's going to be an immense focal point on the offensive side of the ball. And this is going to be essentially the same scenario for the defense, right? Sauce Gardner is going to allow you to do so many different things with how well he's done. And a lot of people are going to bring up the fact that he's had a down year in 2024, but there's so many stats out there. And obviously you love the film to back all of these up as well, but so many stats still keying in on just how good he was at what he's primarily asked to do, which is lock up wide receivers. In 2024, he allowed the fewest catches of all qualified corners with 25, which is absolutely insane, right? I think at one point, and actually this probably applies to the majority of his season, he's allowing a lower passer rating than most quarterbacks are having. What am I trying to say here? He allows a lower passer rating than the average performance, I think it is, for like a quarterback in terms of QBR or just their passing rating as a whole, which is insane to think about, right? And then I know Michael Nania posted something along the lines of he's had less games. He's averaged, I should just find the info picks and all that kind of stuff for you guys, but essentially something along the lines of he's averaged less catches allowed per game than the average across all cornerbacks in the NFL. And I have to look at it again, right? Because I don't know what that means without the context and everything, but it sounds essentially like he's saying on average, Sauce Gardner is pretty much unthrowable against, which is, I imagine, what the takeaway is for. I know the article was coming from a positive standpoint anyways, but nonetheless, we do have a couple pieces here in terms of recent news with him along the lines of his contract, right? He has made some noise about the contracts that cornerbacks or DBs in general are getting in compared to what wide receivers are getting, right? It's always kind of been a huge outlier seeing wide receivers break the $30 million barrier, the 25, the 20, and then you have these cornerbacks that are creeping in, 10 to 15 million bucks, maybe below some of these also top guys that they're being asked to guard, and some of these guys like your Surtains or your, Revises at the time, or your Sauce Gardners in this case, that have done really, really well in that aspect, not being rewarded in the same level, because it's more likely that your cornerback sees a drop off in an extreme way than it is to see your wide receiver do it, is the argument that I imagine happens there. But Sauce Gardner is a guy that also has a couple levels in his game he can achieve that can really just make a world of difference in terms of making him the unquestionable top DB in the league, right? Obviously, the penalties ended up escalating a bit here in 2024 as well, and I think he had 9 or 10 on the season, but also the tackling, right? And I would say more so the physicality, less than maybe the tackling even in of itself. It seems like the mentality is always that when it comes to him needing to do anything outside of coverage, he's making business decisions, right? Whether that's for his health, whether that's for the understanding that he was going to land a huge contract and he doesn't want injury to be a part of that conversation or something. Who knows? But it's something that Aaron Glenn and Steve Wilks and Dre Bly, they're not going to stand for, right? So I'm really looking forward to it as well, with seeing him visibly put on some additional muscle, but I'm really looking forward to that as well. Imagine if you had a player of Sauce Gardner's skill when it comes to coverage and a mentality of physicality of like a Devon Witherspoon. You would have an absolute demon in your backfield helping you out. And that's ideally what I would be looking for out of Sauce Gardner this year. Now, there also have been multiple tweets and interviews indicating that a deal would be on the horizon, not only just from, multiple beat writers and such across the league, but also from Sauce Gardner himself, which, he's tweeting out things like he's about to break the generational curse and stuff like that, and coming on the heels and knowing he's in a contract situation. Great news. You top it off with this. Sauce Gardner has slowly been working his way into taking over the face of the franchise type vibes from someone like Quinnen Williams, for example. And so you can make the argument that you're going to start, right? Because not only is Garrett Wilson hitting his prime, same thing with Sauce Gardner. You're going to start hitting this level where Quinnen Williams slowly may still end up rising, right? But his star is only going to go so high, whereas Sauce Gardner still has, again, levels to unlock, accolades to achieve, success to see with the team that is ideally trending in the right direction under Aaron Glenn. So where he's capitalizing right at the beginning, Quinnen Williams is kind of getting in, not at the barrier of entry necessarily to say, even though they're both working for the in the first year of Aaron Glenn's regime, but there's just more to be able to expect and look forward to out of Sauce Gardner. He does all of the things outside of the media well, just like he does with Quinnen, but he's also a little bit more at the forefront of kind of the young man's game, not only when it comes to social media, but also being able to, build up his brand, if you will, which I don't think Quinnen Williams is necessarily as high or keen on or looking forward to do. Plus, DB, you can argue, is a sexier position maybe than what's happening in the trenches for someone like him. So let me know what you guys think, though. I would be super excited for this video to be absolutely unnecessary, and we also get the news of Sauce Gardner's huge contract, which could break even what Garrett Wilson got, right? And I'm just thinking of average value. He may be a guy that's reaching somewhere between 32 and 35 million per year. Or he could have something crazy happen where he looks to outshine Derek Stingley, and maybe it's along the lines of the same numbers of Garrett Wilson, but he ends up getting something super close to like a fully guaranteed contract. But let me know what you guys think and or whatever predictions for the contract you guys have, and I'll catch you guys again. Peace.